Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Frontenac County Council meeting for November the 19th, 2025. We begin this meeting by moving into a closed session.
Moved by Councillor Leonard, seconded by Councillor Fowler, resolved that council resolve itself into committee of the whole closed session as authorized under section 239 of the Municipal Act to consider adoption of closed minutes of meeting held October 15th, 2025, and labor relations or employee negotiations as it relates to negotiations with QP 2290.
Any comments? In favor? We're going to move to closed. Welcome back, everyone. We begin this gathering by acknowledging and celebrating these traditional lands as a gathering place of the first peoples and their ancestors who were entrusted to care for Mother Earth since time immemorial. We do so respecting both the land and the indigenous people who continue to walk with us through this world. Today, the county is committed to working with indigenous peoples and all residents to pursue a united path of reconciliation. We have returned from our closed session. Resolved that council rise from committee of the whole closed session and the rules of bylaw number 2022-0026 be waived and the warden report. Our clerk will read the resolution.
So, sorry, that was moved by Councillor Gowdy. Sorry, that was moved by Councillor Gowdy and seconded by Councillor Greenwood Spears. You just need to call the question on that.
Okay. Any comments? In favor? Thank you.
And the resolution coming out of that is moved by Councillor Smith and seconded by Councillor Vanderwall. Be it resolved that the warden and clerk be authorized to execute a 3-year collective agreement effective January 1, 2024 to December 31st, 2026 with Local 2290 of the Canadian Union of Public Employees, QP Local 2290, which represents the county's unionized Fairmount Home and County Administration staff.
Any comments? In favor? Carried. No, you won't, just for a second. Jeanette wants the gavel. I just want to say, as my term as warden comes to an end, thank you so much to this group of individuals here and the staff for their support. I really appreciate the trust you put in me and look forward to supporting the next warden in this position as well. So thank you so much. Okay, Madam Clerk, floor is yours. Yes. Do you want to wear this too? No. That's still live. Thank you.
So our first item of business is nominations for the position of warden. Councillor Vanderwall.
I nominate Bill Saunders.
And is there a seconder for that? Councillor Lichty? Are there any other nominations? Seeing none, I just need a mover and a seconder to close nominations. Councillor Smith and Councillor Fowler, and all those in favor? Councillor Saunders, do you accept the nomination of warden?
I do, thank you.
Awesome. And now I just need nominations for the position of deputy warden. Councillor Smith?
I nominate Ron Vanderwall.
And is there a seconder for that? Councillor Leonard? And are there any other nominations? Seeing none, I just need a mover and a seconder to close nominations. Councillor Gowdy and Councillor Lichty. And all those in favor? Great. And Councillor Vanderwall, do you accept that nomination? So I would just like to call up Councillor Vanderwall to take the declaration of office for the deputy warden. I have somewhere here. Read that.
I, Ron Vanderwall, have been elected to the office of Deputy Warden in the municipality of the Corporation of the County of Frontenac. Do solemnly promise and declare that I will truly, faithfully, and impartially exercise this office to the best of my knowledge and ability. I have not received and will not receive any payment or reward or promise thereof in the exercise of this office in a biased, corrupt, or in any other improper manner. I will disclose any pecuniary interest, direct or indirect, in accordance with the Municipal Code of Conflict of Interest Act. I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to His Majesty King Charles III, and I make this solemn promise and declaration conscientiously, believing it to be true, and knowing that it is of the same force and effect as if made under oath. Sorry. Yep. Yep.
So if I just could call up Warden Saunders to take the declaration of office for Warden.
Madam Chair. Thank you. I, Bill Saunders, have been elected to the office of Warden in the municipality of the Corporation of the County of Frontenac, and do solemnly promise and declare that, one, I will truly, faithfully, and impartially exercise this office to the best of my knowledge and ability. I have not received and will not receive any payment or reward or promise thereof for the exercise of this office in a biased, corrupt, or in any other improper manner. I will disclose any pecuniary interest, direct or indirect, in accordance with the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. I will faithfully and bear true allegiance to His Majesty King Charles III, and I make this solemn promise and declaration conscientiously, believing it to be true and knowing that it is the same force and effect as if made under oath. Oh dear. Thank you.
So Warden Saunders, I will now turn the meeting over to you.
I've been told it's customary to have the warden provide a inaugural address. So here's what I have to offer. I've been asked several times as to why I would assume this role, which also includes some cautionary tales about the demands. You know, those, are you sure you know what you're getting in for? I believe former Warden Smith had that conversation with now former Warden Lidke, and he appeared to survive. So I think there's a standard I can live up to. My response to that question has been the same. I have friends, acquaintances who have demonstrated a commitment to public service throughout their career, and they all remark on the same thing. The opportunity to serve, opportunity to serve and have a positive impact on your community is extremely rewarding. I believe with the support of this council, I can experience that same reward. My commitment, therefore, is to do my part to ensure council and staff work collaboratively in addressing the pressing issues of the day while setting the direction for Frontenac County's future growth and success. I want to thank past Warden Smith, Vanderwall, and Lidke for setting the standard for me to follow. It is a true honor to be elected to this position and become the 160th County of Frontenac Warden. I want to thank council for your confidence in my ability to fill the role. Thank you. We will now return to the regular agenda. And the first is approval of an addendum. I don't believe there are any. Disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. Seeing none. Adoption of minutes.
Moved by Councillor Smith, seconded by Councillor Lichty, resolved that the minutes of the regular council meeting held October 15th, 2025 be adopted.
Any question, comments? All in favor? Passed.
And for the committee of the whole, excuse me, budget meetings, that's moved by Councillor Greenwood Spears and seconded by Deputy Warden Vanderwall. Resolved that the committee of the whole budget meetings held October 28th and 29th, 2025 be adopted.
Any comments, questions? All those in favor? Passed. We now move to delegations and presentations. Mr. Steve Leonard will address County Council regarding prime agricultural land. Mr. Leonard, you're welcome to come to the microphone. And Mr. Leonard, as always, when we have presenters, we encourage that, but we also remind them that you have a 10-minute time limit. So thank you.
Good morning, Warden, members of the council, staff. Thank you for my opportunity to speak today. My name is Stephen Leonard of 4057 Boyce Road, Harrismith, Ontario, South Frontenac. My family has owned our property since 1840. I'm the sixth generation on this property. It's not just a parcel on a map. It's my home, it's my history. I'm here today because of the proposed prime agriculture designation on my property and others in the Portland district. It is not supported by evidence. It's based on outdated policies, the 20 PPS, and handled in a way that raises serious concerns about procedural fairness. Lack of evidence for the prime agriculture designation. My first concern is simple. No one has showed me real evidence to justify calling my land prime agriculture. To this day, I have not been provided with any specific soil testing, any agriculture capability mapping, any laboratory soil reports, any on-ground assessments, any technical studies showing that my land or many other of the surrounding properties truly qualify as prime agriculture. From everything I've been able to see, the township solely relied on satellite imagery and broad mapping, not specific to science. A designation that limits what people can do with their property should not be based on assumptions. As the approval authority, county council should not be asked to approve designations without underlying data. Impact classification and actual use of my land. According to impact, my land is classified as farm residential, and I actively grow hay and maintain farm equipment on the property. So yes, my land is used for agriculture, but that does not automatically make it prime agriculture area. Prime agriculture area is reserved for the highest quality soils and requires proper verifications. If impact can distinguish between basic agriculture use and prime agriculture, then the township and county must also make the same distinct based on evidence, not just a colored block on the map. Now, this is the watershed municipal drain and scale of the affected area. In the Portland district, the watershed and the municipal drain system covers approximately 25 acres, a large portion of the land being labeled as prime agriculture. It's heavily influenced by this watershed drainage. Now, I tried to map it out. I couldn't get an exact answer from South Frontenac's planner at the time, but I come up with approximately 3,500 acres as the designation as prime agriculture. So out of that 3,500 acres, approximately 2,500 acres of that is a part of the watershed and municipal drain. That should have also triggered more careful analysis in soil conditions, flooding, and draining issues, in the particular agriculture capability of the land. Instead, huge areas, including mine, were swept into prime agriculture designation. That level of scrutiny. Outdated policy. 2020 PPS, Bill 97, and the 2024 PPS. We are now in 2025, yet this official plan is largely based on the 2020 policy statement, even though Bill 97 corrected and replaced portions of Bill 23. The 2024 PPS, or Provincial Policy Statement, came into force, providing new direction for rural agriculture and housing planning. In other words, South Frontenac is officially asking you to approve decisions using an old policy in 2020. If the residents expected to obey current provincial policy legislation, then the municipalities and countries must also follow the PPS and legislation framework, not to what was in place 5 years ago. Mapping and changes. The February 2025 reversion. The mapping in this area, when I speak of the mapping, I'm speaking of the prime agriculture mapping in the Portland district. The official mapping has been drawn one way, then re-advised again. And the changes in February, areas were moved back to rural designation, I believe. The February 2025 happened after South Frontenac councillor sold the land to the township for the new police and fire station. If the mapping can change for land sale, it can be changed and be revisited when residents raise legitimate concerns in the task to see evidence. Repeatedly, mapping changes with no clear assured documentations undermine trust in the accuracy and fairness of the designations. Being passed around for the level of governments since last April, I'm telling you, it's been passed around. Since April, I've contacted the Premier's office, the Ministry of Municipal Housing and Affairs, my MP, and other provincial offices. Every path led me back to the same message. This is a county level matter. Frontenac County is the approval authority, excuse me. South Frontenac have also repeated me to take the matter up with the county because the official plan is now in your hands, and respectfully so. The mayor's email blocking one door and pointing to the other. In the middle of trying to navigate this, I received an email from the mayor stating you can't delegate again on the same subject. For a resident who is simply trying to understand what is being done to his property, and that kind of message is discouraging. At the same time, the mayor directed me himself to take the matter up at Frontenac County because in his words, the official plan is now in the hands of the county. So on one hand, I was told I could not delegate at the township. On the other hand, I was told to bring it to the matter here because it is now the county's responsibility. I followed that direction, and that's exactly why I'm here today. Speaking at the level of government, and the mayor himself told me it's responsible for reviewing and approving this official plan.
Mr. Leonard, you have 1 minute left.
Pardon me?
You have 1 minute left in your presentation?
I'm not going to cover it all, so I'll try to get to my closing statement. Final closing statement. I spent months seeking answers from every level of government, every path and led back here. In Frontenac County Approval Authority, my request is simple. The official plan decided with full transparency, profit evidence, procedural fairness that's include ensuring the councillors who already voted in the matter at the township level do not vote again a second time at the county. I'm not looking for conflict. I'm looking for fairness for myself and the other property owner affected. I'm not going anywhere soon,
Does that,
unless
sorry,
the
Mr.
good Lord takes me. Thank
Leonard,
you.
does that conclude your final comments?
Pardon me?
Does that conclude your final comments?
Yes, it is.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I want to thank you, Mr. Leonard, for your presentation. Seeing no comments or any other observations, we thank you again. Oh, sorry, Councillor Greenwood Spears.
Yes, thank you for your
Just one second. I was to the understanding there was no questions and answers from an email.
The clerk will clarify your point.
So just to clarify, it's not for a delegation to pose questions to members of staff or council, but after a delegation, if councillors have questions for the delegate, they're able to ask. You as a delegate are not able to ask questions to council or staff.
Hmm?
So my question,
I'll give my best answer. Fire away.
my question to you is, your land previously was identified as, are you rural residential, rural urban? You know, what
That's
was
a-
your designation? It was not prime agricultural land prior to that. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
But that was from impact.
Sorry, Councillor Smith, could you clarify your statement?
Well, I think Mr. Leonard did say that impact, the assessment office, had you designated as rural residential. But what was your zoning with the municipality?
Impact has me classified as farm residential.
Okay, but what was your zone with the municipality?
At the moment, it's rural residential,
Okay,
and it has been since 2003.
Okay.
That was in the 2003 official plan. Apparently, there was a specialist come in and said that this area cannot be designated as, I'm not sure if it was, the prime agriculture is, I'm not sure when prime agriculture come into effect. I know it come into effect in 2019 in the greater horseshoe area.
Excuse me, Mr. Leonard, I think we're going to have to move on.
No, I
No,
have-
that's fine.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Greenwood Spears.
I have one more follow-up question since you raised that point. Does your tax rate change based on whether it's prime agriculture from what it was before? Or are you being taxed the same rate?
The prime agriculture,
No, this is your money.
oh, sorry, can you re-question that?
Oh, okay. Your previous tax rate on the lower designation of farmland versus prime agriculture, is there a change of taxes?
I
that you're
have
having to
no
pay?
idea because
Okay.
it hasn't reached that level yet. That's why I'm here today to ask that it stays zoned as rural.
Thank you, Mr. Leonard. Your request has been duly noted. I appreciate your taking the time for your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Moving on with the agenda, proclamations. There are no proclamations that I'm aware of. We'll move on to the next item, which is moving into the committee of the whole.
Moved by Councillor Gowdy, seconded by Councillor Fowler, that council adjourn and meet as committee of the whole council with the deputy warden in the chair.
My apologies. Any comments on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you. It's passed.
So at this time, we will start with briefings from our CAO, Mr. Kevin Farrell.
Perfect. Good morning, Warden, Deputy Warden, and Council. As always, I'll take you through the CAO update for November 2025. I'll touch on the main points and happy to answer any questions. So as most in this room are aware, I've been busy on the home front and away from the office the last couple of weeks as my wife and I welcomed a new addition to our family. Baby Colette arrived on October 30th and everyone is doing well. And as you can see, she's already sporting her Frontenac onesie. It was a great turnout for Warden Lichty's Wine and Cheese event at Clare Mill Hall in Plevna this past Monday. It was great evening celebrating the successes of the past year. Staff recently participated in a kickoff meeting with Groundworks engineers and Newterra as we plan for the upgrade to the septic system. The Frontenac Municipal Services Technical Support Committee is meeting this afternoon. They will be focused on marketing and a work plan for 2026. Our corporate leadership team will be wrapping up LEADS training on November 26th, and a big thank you goes out to Mark and Jeremy for leading this important training across our organization. In terms of a human resources update, 335 postings as of November 11th. As always, ongoing recruitment at Fairmount Home. We've filled some roles in terms of the executive assistant to the CAO and treasurer, administrative clerk for Frontenac paramedics, and we now have a temporary deputy treasurer in place. For labor relations, QP 2290, we invited them back to the bargaining table. A tentative agreement was reached on November 6th. QP members ratified on November 13th, and as we heard this morning, council ratified that agreement, so that's a huge step in the right direction. For our paramedic bargaining unit, OPSU 462, we're awaiting dates for the next bargaining meetings. Under miscellaneous, we have Challenging Your Bias training on December 3rd. Barb McCulloch led a conflict modes workshop. We did this in-house with 24 attendees, so thank you, Barb. We now have our occupational health tracking software implemented. A few updates from Frontenac Paramedics. We received a thank you letter from the Trillium Gift of Life Network following a collective effort to grant someone's last wishes of being able to donate their viable organs following an at-home made procedure. Frontenac Paramedics assisted in transferring a person to KGH Hospital following their procedure where they were able to donate their lungs and give someone else a new lease on life. Congrats to Deputy Chief Herchebes, who earned his Certified Health Executive designation through the Canadian College of Health Leaders. And our very own Chief Gowdy won the Chief's Chili Cook-Off, which took place as part of the 9 Run event on October 11th. Congratulations, Chief. There was multiple entries, so he did well. So more babies in today's update. On October 27th, we were able to gather all the babies of Frontenac paramedics that have been born in the last year for a group photo. It's great to see these growing families. On November 11th, Fairmount commemorated Remembrance Day. A special thanks to the officer cadets from the Royal Military College of Canada for participating in this service. On November 5th, 2025, the 23-year-old transfer switch at Fairmount Home was successfully replaced. The day began at 4 a.m. and did not conclude until 7:30 p.m. And a big special thank you goes out to our maintenance lead hand, Dave McShane, and management who arrived early to provide additional support throughout the planned outage. I'm also pleased to let council know that all of the hard work has paid off and Fairmount Home has been successful in receiving another 3 years of CARF accreditation. More details on this will come to council in December, but a huge congratulations and thank you to Susan and her team for their efforts. This is an important achievement that should be celebrated. Measurable digital engagements for October were down slightly from last month, but up a very strong 30% from the same period last year. Once again, we are seeing record digital engagements since we began measuring in 2020. The top most engaged with items in October were a social media item about paramedics' 9 Run event, a cardiac arrest save item by paramedic Morgan, and an item about county staff supporting the Blue Jays, even though they came up short. 10 proposals were received in response to the RFP for the Natural Heritage Study. Staff are reviewing the proposals and will be shortlisting firms for interviews later in November. Planning applications have remained steady, and as is the trend, approximately 40% have been through delegated authority. I had the privilege of attending the business retreat last month at RKY Camp in Parham. There were lots of great conversations, big smiles, and some great experiences hosted by local businesses, including broom making, cheese tasting, which I participated in, and forest bathing. I will note, where is he, that Richard went forest bathing and seemed a lot calmer when he came back. So we're thinking about making this a regular thing. So last evening, the Frontenac County Business Awards were held at Piccadilly Hall in Godfrey. The event included networking, award presentations, and a short presentation. This was the fourth year for the awards, and there were 38 nominations across 5 categories. You see the winners here. The Business of the Year Award went to KMP Brewery. The New Business Award went to Rampant Kitchen. The Partnership and Collaboration Award was the Rise Farm. Innovation and Sustainability Award, Parallel Studios. And the Woman-Led Business Award went to Allison Montgomery of Back to Health. And there's some additional photos that we've included. We added this after the fact because it just took place last evening. I missed a part here, but the Economic Development Team also visited each of the townships last month to host open houses about the municipal accommodation tax feasibility. There was lots of great conversations, some good suggestions, and also some resistance. However, Richard will be working on putting the pieces together to determine whether a map might be feasible over the next few months, and he'll be bringing a report back to council in the coming year. With County Council's support and additional funding from the Ontario Federation of Snowmobiles, the Snow Road Snowmobile Club, and the Frontenac ATV Club, we were able to replace the missing bridge quickly this fall in order to facilitate the reopening of the KMP Trail and Snow Road Station for snowmobile use this winter. While the trail in this area will be in good shape for winter use, it will be closed during spring, summer, and fall of 2026 until the surface can be upgraded. Lastly, I just wanted to flag for council that the province has announced the creation of the Ontario Provincial Conservation Agency with the intent to provide centralized oversight of the province's conservation authorities. Under the plan, the current 36 conservation authorities will be consolidated into approximately 7 regional authorities. These are supposed to align with existing watershed boundaries, and consultations are currently underway, with the earliest revised structure projected for late 26 or early 2027. And I don't have a slide for this, but finally I want to acknowledge now past warden Jerry Lichty in his role as warden of Frontenac County. It has been an absolute pleasure getting to know and work with him this past year. He's been a great representative of Frontenac County. He's brought great ideas and insights and has been a tremendous asset as well to the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus. We've been to Roma, Amo, and Queen's Park together advocating on important initiatives. Warden Lichty, thank you for your commitment to the role, and a huge congratulations to Warden Saunders. I'm very much looking forward to working with you in your new role. And on that note, thank you, council, and I'll take any questions at this time.
We have questions? Councillor Greenwood Spears?
Thank you for the report. And that one thing that caught my attention, well, there's a couple little things, but the Conservation Authority, and that have we heard from our local conservation authorities? I heard from at least one in that at a meeting last week. And basically they seem to have a lot of concern about this, what they view as an overreach by the provincial government. And since we share a building with Conservation Authority and that, I'd like to know that we're having good communication, whether or not we should be supporting them during this time of struggle.
Yeah, so I will say I had the privilege of sitting beside the general manager of the Conservation Authority that's right in this building at the Warden's Wine and Cheese event, and we're looking forward to sitting down when I'm back in the office sometime next week. So we'll be engaging in those conversations for sure, and it's early days with this proposal from the government.
Councillor Lichty?
So in North Frontenac, we have Mississippi Valley Conservation Authority, and they're apparently going to provide some information to council on Friday's meeting. One of the big issues is we have a number of dams in the system, big dams. What's going to happen to them? There's a lot of rumors, so we're looking forward to seeing what actually comes down and how much of this is downloaded, if any.
Councillor Smith?
Since we're on this topic, I have major concerns because they're going to draw the lines and we know that they don't understand Eastern Ontario when they draw these lines. We have 3 conservations in our municipality. So I just hope we get a chance to be at the table to help them draw those lines. So if we can fight to do that, I think that's work well done.
My understanding is they've asked for comments already to councils or staff, so.
They haven't given us
oh,
some
what the
parameters of what we might be looking at. We can draw some lines for them if they want.
Councillor Greenwood Spears.
Okay, on that note then, Roma is coming up. Has the deadline come and gone for applying for delegation status, and that this seems to be something that will be very impactful for a lot of rural municipalities, and I think we need to move on it quicker rather than later.
Yeah, so the deadline was Friday, I believe. However, this is something that will be as part of discussion more broadly at the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus, I'm sure.
Any other questions or comments for this, Mr. Farrell? Councillor Fowler?
Yes, just a question regarding the conservation authorities. Does this mean there's going to be less members coming to the table to participate in their business? Or is it going to sort of remain the same?
It's hard to say at this point. I think it's the announcement's been made, and they'll be working through through those discussions.
Lastly, I just want to make a couple of comments. Congratulations to all of our staff who worked together to reach this collective agreement without a dispute, which is great news. So I think that's a positive for everybody working together, and also to Susan and her team for getting a 3-year accreditation. I think that's great. So I just want to say on behalf of council, congratulations to both parties that got this done. Thank you very much. Then we have recommended reports for the Chief Administrative Officer. There's a consulting briefing. Is Chris going to go through it, or if there's questions? Okay. Then we have with us Chris Vander Hayden, and he will do the presentation.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm assuming that you'll be forwarding the slides as we move through them. As I do have this, I can present my screen if that's works better, but I can have you advance the slides as well, whatever you choose.
I'm happy to do that, Chris. Just let me know when you want me to change the slides.
Okay, I'm just going to readjust my screens on my end. I was prepared to. All right. Well, thank you for having me here today. I'm here today to present the findings and recommendations of Frontenac County's 2025 Asset Management Plan. And before we get into the next slide, what we'll be going through today, and this is a very short, concise presentation, just based on the facts. We won't drill down deep into the asset management plan, but more or less the high-level findings. And the agenda starts with the regulatory context, and then we'll talk about the asset management plan itself. And then we'll leave some time for the presentation. If we could advance the slide, please. All right. So from a regulatory context, many of you already know or may know that the province put in place the Infrastructure for Jobs Prosperity Act in 2015. And from that was the introduction of the Regulation 588-17. Asset management planning for municipal infrastructure. It does require all municipalities in Ontario to develop an asset management policy and update their asset management policy along with AMPs between the dates. Well, it started in 2021, but because of COVID, they moved it to 2022 to 2025, with increasing complexity along the way. As part of the current engagement with PSD Citywide, the AMP was developed and it meets the requirements, the 2025 OREG 588 requirements for the county. Next slide, please. And as you can see here, these are all the requirements that have been met over the course of the last 5-6 years, starting with that asset management policy, and then all of the current levels of service, asset management plans, and target levels of service as defined in the 2025 asset management plan. Next slide, please. So a brief overview, what the regulations were, what were needed to be met from the province, and now we'll talk about the asset management plan. The asset management plan, it did start back in 2022 with the first round of asset management plans, further adopted, and now we're at the 2025 stage. This asset management plan includes buildings, equipment, land improvements, KMP trail, and vehicles. Just to note that buildings and land improvements will include all the equipment associated with the buildings themselves, as these are separate service areas. So that's a slight change from the last asset management plan. Analysis has been focused on existing assets with additional consideration for anticipated growth and potential impacts on future asset management. It is good to understand that this AMP represents a snapshot in time and may not be the data from today's point. It was taken from a snapshot back from an audited year end. The asset management plan does provide a framework for prioritizing and efficiently allocating those funds across your infrastructure programs and services. And it does serve as a key communication tool for both internal stakeholders and external partners. And anyone in the public may be watching this presentation today, I encourage you to read your asset management plans within your county. It provides a lot of information, and it's a great communication tool on some of the decisions that are made going forward. Next slide, please. So what we're seeing here is the total replacement cost value of all of the infrastructure and assets that the county owns. And the current replacement cost was evaluated at roughly $130 million. Again, noting the buildings and land improvements includes equipment. There was not enough room on the screen for the additional label. And we can see that most significantly, the buildings and land improvements and equipment come in at the highest at $112 million of total replacement cost of the total portfolio value of assets. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Thank you. Oh, we're one slide too far. Perfect. Thank you. Asset condition. What we need to understand that the asset condition is based on assessed condition and also age-based analysis where there was an assessed condition. Assessed condition data was available for approximately 80% of assets with strong coverage for the buildings and building components that were derived from the 2022-2023 facility assessments completed by ABSI, and also OSIM scores for trail bridges. In the absence of assessed condition scores, age-based analysis was used, which is simple calculation looking at the estimated useful life of assets, how many years in service, which then defines what percentage of life is left remaining in those assets. And as we can see on the screen here today, the 81% of the county's infrastructure portfolio is in fair or better condition. Overall average condition is fair or 54% as calculated. Next slide, please. The chart that we're looking at right now does highlight a $7.2 million backlog across buildings, equipment, land improvements, and vehicles. And these are assets that have exceeded their useful lives, but remain in service. Many can continue to function safely and with proper maintenance and lifecycle management. This figure helps guide long-term risk assessment for the county and reinvestment priorities. Rather than indicating urgent replacement needs, the backlog also underscores the importance of ongoing targeted condition assessments. And based on our analysis and our findings, based on the current replacement cost of the portfolio, the average annual capital needs over the life cycle of all assets total $4.9 million to achieve full funding. Next slide, please. So the 2025, part of the 2025 asset management plan and OREG 588 requirements, a target levels of service needed to be addressed and to meet those requirements. And really at a high level, levels of service are a balance of cost, performance, and risk. As we know, if the costs go up and we don't have the money to pay for it, risks also go up. And performance may be affected when there's not significant investment. Adequate revenue is crucial for building sustainable asset management programs. One slide back, please. Not quite finished there. Thank you. Adequate revenue is crucial for building sustainable asset management programs. To deliver affordable levels of service, a balance is required between cost, performance, and risk, as I mentioned just slightly earlier. Improving service levels can reduce risks or enhance performance, but usually comes with higher costs for taxpayers in doing so. While lowering service levels may save money in the short term, but could increase risk or cause service disruptions over time. Ultimately, setting levels of service is not just a technical exercise. It's a strategic choice about the type of services the county wants to provide and the trade-offs it's willing to make to do so. The understanding was reinforced through workshops with PSD and county stakeholders, ensuring that decisions reflect shared priorities and informed perspectives. And I do want to focus on this. There was a lot of time and effort by not only your team and your finance department, but also your departmental staff, your managers, facility managers, and so on. There's a lot of effort that went into developing these levels of service and calculating what is required. Next slide, please. So we looked at this. What we're looking at here is the proposed level of service scenario modeling, and essentially, what we looked at was what the county is currently investing in your assets and infrastructure. Then we looked at a full funding scenario, but then we came up with a strategic funding scenario. And as part of the provincial requirements, municipalities are expected to evaluate different strategies to support desired levels of service over the long term. To guide decision making, we developed these three funding scenarios that I just mentioned to compare potential outcomes. Each scenario models a different approach to capital investment, highlighting trade-offs between financial impact and service level sustainability. This comparison helps the county understand how investment decisions affect asset conditions, life cycle costs, and long-term service reliability, allowing for an informed choice that balances tax considerations with those infrastructure needs. Next slide, please. So through the scenario analysis, we can see on the screen here, we looked at the trade-offs and risks associated with those different scenarios. And if the county were just simply to look at their current funding position and move forward with that, there would be a minimal tax impact, but it may lead to delays to larger future tax increases to catch up. Increased likelihood of service disruption, emergency costs as things fail that weren't attended to, and declining public satisfaction or safety risks. Now, full funding, on the other hand, as we know, in a perfect scenario, in a perfect world, we have enough money to pay for everything, which is not the case. And every municipality is in this same situation today. But that would require the highest tax increases for one. It would provide the highest service reliability and long-term sustainability, and would support strategic infrastructure priorities for all asset categories. So there would be no prioritization and no decision-making to be made because we'd have enough money for everything. From a strategic funding perspective, this is where a lot of the work came into play with your staff. It allows you to manage some risks while keeping tax increases manageable. It does rely on targeted funding increases to address priority pressures, and relies on improved life cycle practices to offset funding gaps. So your staff, your managers, they're looking at ways of how do we do more with less? And the way I can put that is, and I've said this in town halls with residents, staff, and council, we look at the cost of everything today, the cost of fuel, the cost of raw materials, the cost of labor, everything has doubled and tripled over the last 6-7 years. But one thing that is very consistent across the board with most municipalities is taxes have not kept up with that inflation. Not saying that we have to keep up to it, but it pushes us down the path to do more with less. To help evaluate the long-term implications of different investment strategies, we use the citywide decision support module to model a range of funding scenarios, which we have already discussed. This tool allowed us to simulate how asset conditions would evolve over time under various funding levels. Each scenario has different key risks and trade-offs that were considered to the 2025 Asset Management Plan development as represented on the screen. Next slide, please. The county selected a strategic funding scenario, which aligns with identified priorities by applying a 1.5% annual increase to KMP Trail, Fairmount Home, paramedic services, and administration budgets, and a 5% annual increase to the ambulance and non-ambulance vehicle budgets to support the maintenance of essential service levels. Also, this scenario also incorporates enhanced life cycle management practices identified through the stakeholder workshops. Where can we find opportunity to extend the life of these assets at the lowest possible cost? Under this approach, the average annual requirement is approximately $3,455,000, representing the annual funding needed to sustain the proposed levels of service across these assets as defined earlier. Next slide, please. Our financial strategy recommendations are as the following: applying a 1.5% annual increase to Fairmount Home paramedic and administrative funding envelopes, and a 5% annual increase to ambulance and non-ambulance vehicle budgets. Increasing the City of Kingston's contribution by $46,000 annually, approximately per year, approximately 3.5% annually to the city, and ensuring funds are collected over the next 10 years to meet the required funding levels for shared services, paramedics and Fairmount Home. This aligns with the county's target level of service scenarios that we have selected. Increasing existing and future infrastructure budgets by applicable inflation index on an annual basis, in addition to the deficit phase-in. Leveraging additional non-sustainable revenue sources such as one-time grants, surpluses, and reserves as supplementary funding to advance asset management goals. Now, I have to mention, and you're probably well aware, for asset management plans in Ontario, we can only consider sustainable revenue sources when making these calculations. So all calculations in this asset management plan were based off of sustainable revenue sources. That does not include one-time grants or anything that's noted on that bottom line there. So any fundraising or injections from your trail associations cannot be considered because they're not sustainable. Next slide, please. Strategic funding. This approach improves your long-term asset sustainability, provides steady, predictable reinvestment that better supports maintenance and renewal needs as addressed by the teams. Strengthens your service reliability, which enhances the county's ability to maintain the service levels residents expect, improving safety, usability, and operational continuity over time. It does deliver better value for tax dollars, essentially balancing affordability with long-term needs by phasing in targeted funding increases and limiting the financial impact of future cost escalations. And it does support effective risk management. Addresses the most pressing infrastructure and operational risks first, while building toward a sustainable level of reinvestment across all asset groups. Next slide, please. And this is the last slide before we wrap up. And really the next steps for the county and every municipality in Ontario is to continue to refine the inventory and align with operations. The next update and reviews. So council, as part of the OREG 588 regulations, must review the asset management plan presented today annually, look at the performance of the target levels of service, and have discussions around, if we're not meeting our targets, what needs to be done to maybe correct that course of action. The AMP must be updated every 5 years hereafter. So after 2025, your next plan will be due under the OREG 58817 by 2030, and revise your levels of service performance measures based on the most recent data. And that's an important piece. Data drives many of the decisions that are being made here today. So it's very, very important to have information and data up to date as on a regular basis to keep things effective and get the most value out of your asset management plan. With that, we can move to the next slide, and I'll open up the floor for any questions.
Thank you very much, Chris. Questions? Councilor Greenwood Spears.
Thank you for the presentation. Thank you for the report. But one thing caught my eye right off the bat on page 1, and that is there's a 20% data gap in what our assets are. 20% is a lot. It could be a huge pothole that we are not planning for at all. And I'm wondering why at this stage of the game, we have 20% of what we have as an asset left in the black hole. Can you explain that, please? And then I have a few other questions.
That's a very good question, and thank you for that question. You're not alone. Many municipalities are struggling with the data gaps. And the best way we can explain it is PSAB 3150 came into play back in early 2011, I do believe 2012. And it was TCA reporting, tangible capital asset reporting. Our TCA data was never ever configured or developed to be able to undertake asset management. When OREG 588 came into play, municipalities had to look at their information and data in through a whole new lens, which created a lot of roadblocks, you might say, and gaps in aligning that data with asset management and TCA. What I can say is Frontenac County, that 20% in data gaps is relatively small compared to a lot of other municipalities where they're struggling. Even some municipalities haven't even started developing their asset management plan because they don't have the data to support it. I do know that there's been a lot of work, but there's also been data gaps that have been filled since we used this cut in time of this data. Meaning for asset management plans under the OREG, they have to be within 2 years current of the plan itself. As you can imagine, that makes it very difficult for us to use current data from today when it hasn't been audited or approved. So we have to use a year-end audited statement and inventory for these asset management plans, which means we're typically 1 to 2 years behind in that data. So this was at that time, there was 20% gap in data. I do know that there's been a lot of work and there's been a lot of questions around whether we could include other data that has come forward since then. I know that's a long-winded answer, but hopefully that helps frame or gives you a good answer to that question.
Councillor Greenwood-Spears.
Okay, and going back to the backlog of deficit that we have, 7.4 million, I think you said at this point. I'd be interested in knowing what the actual items are and then looking at them from a risk perspective, probability of failure as well as impact. It's one thing if it's a backlog of something that is relatively low risk, but if there's something high risk, then that I think that is needed to be brought to our attention in a much more timely fashion. So the details is really what I'm looking towards for something like that. Thank you.
And thank you for that comment. It's very relevant. What I will assure you is there has been a lot of effort put into the risk side of what comes forward. What I can say about the deficit also, and I mentioned earlier, is the backlog, not the deficit, the backlog. These are assets that may have reached their end of their useful life according to a number. That doesn't mean that they need to be replaced. It just means that this is, the reporting says it's at its end of its life, but it may last another 10 years with proper maintenance, proper life cycle strategies. And rest assured, your departmental staff have looked at that when we've developed these target levels of service and taking all of that into consideration. What I can mention is the best would be to sit down with your staff and have a more in-depth conversation about what they've actually been doing in the background that supports this.
Anyone else have a question or comment? Councillor Lichty.
Thank you for this. Some asset management experience in my background. I think what we need to do as a county is to ensure that staff are on top of this. And, you know, we have to fund the shortfall somewhere because it will catch up with us eventually. So what's the plan? How are we going to do this? And every township here has faced that. And I think we are no different. We just have a slightly different portfolio. And every municipality in Eastern Ontario, learning that from my time on the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus, is in the same boat. And we are generally in much better shape than the majority of them are. And the other thing is that some members of the EOWC are talking about some sort of asset management approach for funding and so on from the province. And I think the new warden will have to pay attention to that because we're not that big. We could get lost in the shuffle. And it's something that may benefit us or may not.
Mr. Farrell, you have a comment?
Just a note that the 1.6% capital dedicated levy that council has committed to will go a long way to improving our situation here.
Okay, thank you. No other comments or questions? Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.
But then we do have a recommendation.
Moved by Councillor Leonard, seconded by Councillor Gowdy. Be it resolved that the Council of the County of Frontenac receive the approval of the 2025 Asset Management Plan Report for information, and further that the clerk be authorized to bring forward a bylaw later in the meeting to approve the Asset Management Plan attached to this report as Appendix A.
There are no further discussion. All in favor? Carried. The next item is Planning and Economic Development KMP Trail Central Frontenac request for trailhead funding to support the construction of an accessible washroom at Sharbot Lake Beach. Mr. Pender, or Mr. Pender, ooh, Mr. Farrell, sorry.
So before I turn it over to council to discuss this topic, I just wanted to highlight a couple of the points. So as you know, criteria has been established for trailhead funding, and staff have considered the various elements holistically. The assessment and information can be found in the report. Council also has approved a dedicated KMP Trail Reserve, as you know, in October of this year that establishes a funding mechanism for trail-related expenses, which includes everything from bridges to trailheads. This is ultimately a decision of council, but we've also drafted some options that I will have the clerk read out before turning it over to council for further discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Farrell. So there's two options that we have prepared for council. Option one would be to approve the request, and that option would be it resolved that the Council of the County of Frontenac approve the allocation of the $100,000 as the Township of Central Frontenac's trailhead funding allocation to be taken from the KMP Trail Reserve Fund for the purpose of supporting the installation of an accessible washroom in Sharbot Lake Beach, and further that staff be directed to work with the Township of Central Frontenac to ensure a detailed plan, including costs, is in place to address the primary trailhead requirements, and further that a memorandum of understanding be brought back to County Council for final review and approval, outlining the roles and responsibilities of each party. The other option for council would be to defeat the request. And the motion we prepare for that is simply be it resolved that the Council of the County of Frontenac denies the request from the Township of Central Frontenac for $100,000 to support the installation of an accessible washroom in Sharbot Lake Beach, and further that staff be directed to work with the Township of Central Frontenac to ensure a detailed plan, including costs, is in place to address the primary trailhead requirements that would support trailhead funding.
Okay, discussion? Councillor Smith.
I think I need to start. First of all, the washroom has been on the table for a long time because it is one of the priorities of the trail is to have a washroom. So way back when we first allocated this money, South Frontenac got their money in sharing one piece of property for another. So there should be another 100,000 in there. Did South Frontenac not get some denomination? They traded property for property.
No,
Okay,
South Frontenac never got anything.
explain to me what happened then.
The property was sold to the County of Frontenac for a trailhead.
Okay, all right. So we're not going to sell our beach property to the county for the bathroom. That is number one. When we designed this bathroom, we took into account that it was on the trail. We placed it so it's close to the trail. There's going to be, it's heated. So if it was just for the beach, we would not have put it there and we would not have heated it. This is our trailhead donation to the trail. There are people that use that all winter that need a washroom. We're in the middle of the trail from Verona to the north. It's heated. There's a space where female could take off their snowsuit and use the washroom comfortably instead of whatever they do now. I don't know. The snowmobile clubs certainly think it's great to have it there. We have support from the ATV club, because again, you park your car in Verona and you go to Snow Road or north and then come back to the middle where the washroom is. So I really believe that we need to support this project. It basically was in good faith that we put this together for the trail. And we're asking for that $100,000. There's more points that we have paid attention to. We're going to have signage, we're going to have a bike rack, we're going to have just about all of the things mentioned in the criteria for a trailhead. As Duncan had presented to us, there's lots of parking. Parking typically happens in our area on weekends. So the medical center parking lot is totally empty. There's parking, a lot of people park at Petra Canada out on 7 if they're coming from that end. So this is an elongated park, and this is a trailhead that is in the middle of our village. We're not going to have a big bare parking lot in the middle of the village, but this washroom is essential for skiers, for hikers, for year-round people that want to use the trail. And when you look at the survey, bathroom was right up there as one of the most wanted thing to have on the trail. So I would like to propose that we do the first motion, and that is to support the washroom.
Thank you. Other comments? Councillor Fowler?
Yeah, just regarding having washroom available for snowmobilers especially, is that the Snow Road Snowmobile Club is not only a shelter in Lanark Highlands, but it is also a shelter for people using the trail. Speaking to the people there, they would like to have their parking lot made as a trailhead in the area. This is from the Snowmobile Club there. But also the club house is open all winter long for people that are using the trail and need bathroom facilities and a warm place to stay. And there's also food available for them as well that they can buy from some of the refrigerators. It's an honorary system. Just to let you know, that is available on the it's not on the KMP trail, but it's near the KMP trail.
You're not talking about this proposal. You're talking, it is available somewhere on that trail.
Near the trail, yes. It's down Gimel Road from
Yep.
509.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Leonard?
How many other organizations, like as in the snowmobiles, ATVs, hikers, walkers, bikers, that has committed to helping out with this?
If I could answer that, that's our next step, because the township has to pay the bill for the heat and the maintenance of this. And we're going to be asking the clubs to help us out with that as an ongoing cost. We have no idea what the heat's going to cost, but it's not going to be cheap.
Warden Saunders?
Thank you, Deputy Warden. I'm conflicted here. On one hand, I think Charlotte Lake is an excellent spot to build a meaningful trailhead. And moving forward on that. On the other hand, the request is specifically for a washroom. And my concern is if we approve this, we set a precedent where the Township of Frontenac Islands comes forward and said, hey, we need an accessible washroom here. Other townships could come forward and ask for funding for similar kinds of projects. So my feeling is the request is too specific in terms of referring specifically to that washroom. And that's the problem I have with it.
Councillor Cowdy?
Thank you. First of all, to answer Councillor Leonard's follow-up on Councillor Smith's comment to Councillor Leonard, when the bathroom project was started, formal agreements were not made, but agreements were made with the Eastern Ontario Trails Alliance, the Frontenac ATV Club, and the Snow Road Snowmobile Club, that they had a strong interest in having a trailhead / washroom put in that area and that they would support it. Now, Counselor Smith is correct, we will be following up with formal agreements, but initially, when the concept was floated and started at the time, those groups had come forward to say that they would want to be part of maintenance of a washroom. And comment to Counselor Saunders, I hear what you're saying, and I understand, I hear what everybody's saying. We in Central Frontenac chose to not call it a trailhead, but to call it the washroom project. But it is essentially what our trailhead is going to be. That's where we feel the biggest need is. It is where two trails come to meet together. It's not about ATVs, it's not about snowmobiles, it's about everybody. Everybody that uses the trail can utilize that space. There will be potable water, so if you need a water bottle filled up, you can fill it up there. You don't have to go somewhere else off the trail to get it. If you get a flat tire, there is a bike repair station. It's going to be moved right now. It's further down the trail. The plan is to move it to that trailhead location. Yes, it's at our beach. Yes, it's a bathroom that our residents and visitors will be using essentially, but it's year round, it's heated, it's warm, and it is a need. And it's about, if the trail is about economic development, we're creating a hub area there to provide that. There's other businesses in the area that will benefit. We had Resurrection at our hotel, who now have hot meals there that you can go off the trail, which is only a stone's throw from there. There's the cafe, there's the store, there's gas stations up the road at Highway 7. I think that it does utilize it. If criteria is about bathroom and not a trailhead, then maybe we go back to the Economic Development Committee and you change the parameters you put there, because this project does check off every box on the list of what you needed to do. If there's going to be changes, it goes back if it's not going to be passed.
Councillor Lichty.
So I looked at this request fairly diligently, and I think we're getting off cheap. This is essentially, I know it benefits Charlotte Lake area, but it also benefits, it's a real asset for our trail. The Tay Havelock Trail goes from Perth, just outside of Perth, all the way to Caladar. And the KNP comes from Kingston, essentially right up, and it's going to keep on going. It's going to form part of this trail loop that our planning people have been talking about, and economic development people have been talking about. It's absolutely excellent. We're paying $100,000 for a $300,000 or $500,000 asset, no maintenance. And we're also committed to putting $100,000 into each township to build a trailhead. I don't know what more we can do. Here it is, laid out for us, all done. We want to contribute, support what we agreed to previously. And just because it's in downtown Charlotte Lake, I mean, right now there's ATVs throughout downtown Charlotte Lake. You go in there. And it's really nice to see. Getting to the area on Highway 7 is another issue. Maybe we should be thinking about putting a little extension in there, Richard. But I'm all for this. I think it's a great idea.
Thank you. Have you spoke? Councillor Greenwood Spears.
Okay, one of the things that has always jumped out to me regarding the KMP Trail is there hasn't been strategic locations identified for everything from benches to bathrooms, et cetera, along the way. That's necessary infrastructure if you're going to have people out there. And with this, the location of it technically is unfortunate because it's not on the KMP Trail, not beside where they meet up. That being said, if it's open year round and heated and there's no other further expense than that, my other question, because I understand that this came to council in 2021 before I was here, has there ever been a request for funding for this, or is this the only time that's been asked because it's already under construction and well down the pipe? But has there ever been a funding dollar associated with it that was going to be requested and the case made that it is part of your KMP Trail and that when it's actually beside the KMP Trail?
Mr. Farrell.
So just to clarify, the original request came in May of 2024. At that time, then we established criteria that came to this council. The last piece that was missing was a funding mechanism, which was we've established a KMP Trail Reserve. And now this request is finally back before council.
Councillor Fowler.
Yes, just want to point out, there are some positive things about having this washroom there. It's halfway along the trail between large centers, like Kingston, Verona and all that, up to Calabogie. It's halfway. It does cross to two major trails. And I know there's a lot of activity in that area all year round. And notwithstanding the fact that I did mention the availability of the Snowmobile Club, Snow Road Snowmobile Club having their facility available too. So I think with them in combination, it would be a great thing to have it here at Sharbert Lake as well. I'm not opposed to it.
Okay, I haven't spoken yet, so I'd
I just want to answer one question.
like to say something.
And that is to Judy, that there's been no money spent on it. I believe there was an article in the newspaper back, I don't know what years, I've been here for so long, probably in 2022 or 23, that says county will support washroom in Sharbert Lake. I had it sent to me. I don't know if I still have it on my phone, but we've discussed this before, but no, there's been no money spent now, but there was the promise of $100,000 to each municipality to do a trailhead. Our trailhead is a washroom. Their trailhead is parking. Yours may be parking and washrooms. So that's, we entered into this in good faith.
So just for clarity in that Frontenac Islands, and that would also be entitled at some point to that, because when we set aside dedicated funds towards physicians and nurse practitioners, and a reasonable request was made, it was turned down by this council.
Okay. I have a couple comments. Comment toward Councillor Lichty off cheap. Well, the cheaper person in me always has to look at that side of it. I would have appreciated had it went to economic development, approached economic development for resources. I would have appreciated if you would have explored what the snowmobile, what the ATV, what those people would commit. I think that would be important, and that would have been due diligence before, well, let's go to the county and see if we can get 100,000. So I think, in my own opinion, I would have liked to seen those things explored. And then come back if there was a shortfall of commitment to say, could we help out? The biggest struggle I have is, and as council knows, and so does Mr. Allen, I have supported the trail from the very start all the way through. We do not own this, and that's my biggest struggle. I don't want to invest in something that the county does not own. However, maybe there's a third option to say, maybe we could commit 50,000 if it was an in-kind to something that we don't own. Something to that effect, but I would have rather had that you explored the options instead of coming here first. And so that's what I have trouble with. I mean, I could say the same thing about Centennial Park. I could say those same things, but we did explore, we applied for grants, we got grants, we did all of that stuff first. We didn't come to the county now though. We should maybe, I don't know. Anyway, but that's where I'm struggling. I don't know if there's a different option than one or two, and maybe option 3 is to throw out a resolution of some support. I have a problem with giving $100,000 because it says to a trailhead for KMP when it's not the trailhead, even though I know what it's doing. I understand all the comments about how it's supporting everything along the trail, but the county doesn't own it. And so I think if you want to get into the details, that 100,000 is for trailhead development that the county owns. So I have a struggle with that. I know you even built a parking lot for your trail. I understand that too. But that's my concern about giving the 100,000. So a rebuttal from Councillor Smith? No.
Yes, just a little. There is nothing in my memory that says the 100,000 has to be given for county to own something. To me, it was the 100,000 was going to the municipality to provide a trailhead of something for the trail to use. Kevin?
So, okay.
So when the criteria were established and passed through PDAC and then by council, there's the criteria, primary and secondary criteria. I don't believe, Richard, correct me if I'm wrong, but there isn't an actual mention that it needs to be county owned. There is a mention that entering into partnerships with not a third party, but a partner, and that an MOU would be signed, and that's why in the option one that the clerk read out, there was a piece in there about entering into an MOU to be brought back to council for final review about around roles and responsibilities.
Mr. Allen.
Just one other point. And that's basically concerning Mr. Allen, in that all the time this washroom committee has been working on this, Richard knew of the work that was being done and wasn't able to attend. I don't know that they invited you, but he certainly was aware of the project happening. Richard.
So from the beginning, when we set out this vision that ended up in the management plan that about trailheads, it indicates that the county will invest up to a maximum of 100,000 in each township. Doesn't indicate whether that investment would be done through partnership or through ownership, just that investment would be made. So that's the language that we've been using as a basis. So I think when we've set out that vision, the idea was that the county would put those dollars into it. And so when the opportunity for a partnership came up, that required us to go back and think about how the county would understand that opportunity through the development of trailhead criteria, through understanding what that partnership looks like if the county and if council decided to pursue a partnership. So that's the language that we're going from, is that the county would invest up to $100,000 in each township. And so it doesn't necessarily mean we would give it or we wouldn't give it. It was just that statement.
So on that note, then I'm going to ask council, do they want to vote on option one, option two, or does somebody have a suggestion for option three? Councillor Greenwood-Spears.
I think perhaps the clarity regarding the memo of understanding that's actually part of option one might help to say that, you know, this will be accessible and maintained by Central Frontenac, and you're not coming back to the county again. And it is for unlimited use for trail people. And that, so I don't want to hear that, you know, oh, it hasn't been plowed out or somebody's turned off the heat, et cetera, and that. But I do see that having been clarified where the location is, as in halfway, that might be a good place to start. We will probably need more bathrooms along the way, as well as benches, and we need to have a good strategic infrastructure plan. And the fact that that hasn't been done up to date is on us. And that, but having an accessible washroom at a halfway mark, long as it's not coming back that, you know, we need to now pay for the heating bill, we need to upgrade the insulation, all that other stuff. And that, as long as there are people are able to use it from the trail and it's well marked, that they can get to it too. And that helps. Thank you very much.
I know Warden Saunders wants to make a comment. I just wanted to ask, have they applied for the accessibility grant? So you haven't done anything except come to us and started it. Councillor Saunders, or sorry, Warden Saunders.
Thank you. Again, as I mentioned, I'm conflicted because from an outsider looking in, this is the county putting $100,000 into a township facility. And that's where I struggle. So for some clarity, are the other trailheads on township properties or on county properties?
Mr. Allen?
So we currently have one trailhead that's been established, and it is on county-owned property.
Which leads to obviously a follow-up question. Where are the other trailheads planned for?
Sharbot Lake, someplace in the north, and the islands.
Now, Richard.
To answer the warden, the intention was to work with the townships to establish a location that was appropriate to that community. And then develop that, the trailheads in those locations depending on what was there. So, so there is not a defined site set in North Frontenac at this stage. We only just brought trail to North Frontenac about a year ago, and so we didn't have a mechanism for funding trailheads in place at that point either. So we haven't had that conversation with the Township of North Frontenac, and certainly the Frontenac Islands. The nature of the trail keeps sort of changing based there, and we're hoping to begin engagement in 2027 and establish a trailhead that makes sense for whatever work we end up doing in the islands.
Councillor Gowdy.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. Just to clarify, we have applied for 3 or 4 grants, and we were not successful on any of the 4 grants we did apply for, but we have tried. So we're not coming to you right off the cuff saying we need. We have knocked on many doors and have been unsuccessful.
Okay, Councillor Rickety.
I think if you're gonna put a trailhead on this, trailheads is the perfect place. Because North Frontenac has no place within its jurisdiction or geographical boundaries that would support a trailhead of this magnitude. Requirements are way overblown. I'd be happy with parking for, a couple acres, fence, couple of streetlights and a picnic table, couple porta potties, we'd be good. But in this case, this is totally different. This would be part of the showpiece. And I don't know whether, I can't find the resolution exactly, but I think the resolution should read that we approve the dispensation of the $100,000 for this particular reason, and that all future maintenance is the responsibility of the Township of Central Frontenac.
So that would be option 1, would it not?
Well, it would be discussions for the memorandum of agreement, so those conditions could be put in that memorandum. Correct, Mr. Allen? Or you want me to answer this?
Yeah, I think the draft resolution that you have in front of you, and we could put on the screen potentially, is something to the extent of laying out approving the funding conditional on a memorandum of understanding where the county's requirements are met.
I would move that motion.
That's on that condition which Mr. Allen just talked about. On a condition that they agree on a memorandum of understanding, so it still leaves it open. Council. Oh, yeah, no.
That's the summary. Sorry.
Pardon me, Mr. Deputy Warden. I think what the clerk had read out indicated that the MOU would be brought back to council for approval and review before finalization.
For any dispersal of monies.
So just for the final resolve clause, then we can maybe put in further that this funding is conditional upon a memorandum of understanding being brought back to county council for final review and approval, outlining the roles and responsibilities of each party.
And those would cover off the conditions that. So you.
Sorry, is that motion on the floor?
Pardon?
Is that motion on the floor? for
Yes,
discussion?
that has been moved by Councillor Smith and seconded by Councillor Lichty.
So I guess for clarification then, so if the islands come forward with a request for the $100,000 for an accessible washroom that's part of a future design or development of the KP Trail that can be on on township land, providing there's an appropriate MOU. Am I understanding that properly? Again, I'm concerned about precedent here.
I'm not answering that one.
That's essentially what council is faced with deciding here.
So that request could come forward. That still doesn't mean council is bound to approve yours.
I wasn't looking for, I just want it on the table that this is the opportunity for the islands in the future.
course, Fran's gonna agree. She wants 100 grand. Any other discussion on motion number one? If that's turned down, then you can either go with two or an alternative. So.
You want to have the clerk read that again, or is it everyone clear with it?
Oh, he would like to read it once.
So the motion being placed on the floor by Councillor Smith and Councillor Lichty is be it resolved that the Council of the County of Frontenac approve the allocation of $100,000 as the Township of Central Frontenac's trailhead funding allocation to be taken from the KMP Trail Reserve Fund for the purpose of supporting the installation of an accessible washroom in Charbot Lake Beach, and further that staff be directed to work with the Township of Central Frontenac to ensure a detailed plan, including costs, is in place to address the primary trailhead requirements, and further that this funding is conditional upon a memorandum of understanding being brought back to County Council for final review and approval, outlining the roles and responsibilities of each party.
All in favor? Carried. You didn't need to speak again. It's carried.
Thank you.
Emergency and, is that where we are? Nope, Frontenac ferry fees, sorry.
Moved by Councillor Greenwood Spears, seconded by Councillor Lichty, resolved that a bylaw be introduced later in the meeting to adopt the 2026 Frontenac Howe Islander ferry fees and fare schedule.
All in favor or discussion? No? All in favor? Carried. Corporate service draft budget revision. I'm wondering, could we, I mean, you can talk about it. I would like this voted on in council because I think it's important. We do a lot of things in committee of the whole, and that's supposed to be where all the talking happens. But I think when we approve the budget, I'd like to see it voted on in council, but, or you want me to ask to pull that out later? Is that what you're saying?
We would need a motion to amend the agenda to move it out of committee of the whole, or we can vote on it here and vote on it separately as well once we revert from committee of the whole back to council.
Okay, I just think that there and an official plan are big items that shouldn't be just taken lightly and voted on in council. That's just my opinion, but. Councillor Greenwood Spears.
I think the committee of the whole is the appropriate place because there we can speak more than once around the table and that, and have a rounded discussion, then you can make the final pass of it in the regular meeting.
Draft budget. Any comments or questions?
Sorry, I just need to put the motion on the floor first.
Oh,
I
sorry.
don't think we did that. So moved by Councillor Smith, seconded by Councillor Fowler, be it resolved that the Council of the County of Frontenac receive the Corporate Services 2026 Draft Budget Revision Report, and further that Council amend the budget to reflect the adjustments outlined in the report, and finally that Council of the County of Frontenac pass a bylaw later in the meeting approving the 2026 budget.
Discussion? Councillor Greenwood Spears.
I'm just wondering for the additional 3 ambulances, that 48,000 figure is just a deposit down. So I'm wondering for the next budget, how much is coming due to come good for those 3 new ambulances? Because that'll be another council that has to deal with that. But I'd like to know what that figure is.
Do you want to answer that, Phil, or do you want
Yeah, so
Kevin to try?
we have that down. It's the 70% balance ends up representing 112,000, and it's 0.79% on next year's levy.
So you're saying we're getting 3 new ambulances for just an additional 112,000?
That is the county share. The balance of that
County
would be
share.
covered by
Okay.
the city.
Councillor Lichty.
Thank you. My only concern with the budget, and I support the figures that we worked out, is that we didn't add anything for topping up or adding to the reserve for the KNP Trail. It's just a comment. We have a $350,000 amount in there right now. That's the reserve amount.
250.
Yeah, just about to say that. And we've allocated 100,000 of that temporarily. to Central Frontenac. Pardon? So now, but we know that down the road, this is going to cost us money. So if we're not doing it now, I would really like to see it done in the next budget or the next year's budget. Because it's there, it's reality. We either do it now or we put it off 1 year, but we can't put it off any more than that. So that's just my comment.
Any comments, Mr. Fair?
Just thank you for the comment. I know when we established the KMP Trail Reserve, there was a mechanism in there to carry over surplus if Richard has a surplus at the end of the year to feed into that. But it's something we should consider and potentially bring back to council for future consideration. It is not part of the budget you're approving today.
Mr. Allen?
Thank you, Deputy Warden. Just to add to the CAO's comments, part of what we were waiting on was the outcome of the asset management plan and the information contained in that, and so that will likely factor into the approach that we take to funding reserve and sustaining funding going forward.
Any other comments? All in favor? Carried. Emergency information report, so I guess it's only if you have a question on the transportation service replacement of furnace at Parham. Report for planning and economic, the report received from planning and economic. Anyone have any questions? Pardon? Oh. Yep, I was here. Wow. Okay. Staff briefing. Oh, I tried to cut you right out of the agenda. Sonia has a brief staff briefing.
Thank you, Deputy Warden, and good morning, Warden and members of council. Yes, I know this is a little bit out of the normal pattern of things because we usually speak at PDAC about this, and then it's just a matter of passing PDAC's agenda, but it's, yes. Oh, sorry, if I put it right on, I have to stand way back. I'm a little short. I need a box or something here. Oh, okay, a bit closer. All right. As I said, I know this is a little unusual to give the same presentation at County Council, but it's not every day that one of our townships gets a new official plan. So it is my pleasure to be able to present the new official plan for the township of South Frontenac. So I'm really glad the Deputy Warden let me do that. Thank you. So I have a brief presentation here. And again, this is a big moment for South Frontenac because it's been over 20 years since they've had an official plan adopted and then approved by County Council. And as planners, a lot of our sort of day-to-day bread and butter is doing the development applications, but it's documents like this and the policy planning and the long-range planning that really, I think, make the biggest impact in the long term in a community, and particularly at a regional level. It's also the part of planning that I'm most passionate about. So in terms of South Frontenac's journey, it started back in 2019. They had some significant challenges due to a global pandemic, and then they had some staff changes. But we have before you today the final version of their new official plan. They undertook extensive public engagement within their community to ensure that this is the community's vision and the community's plan, and that included engagement with First Nations groups and Indigenous communities. I want to thank township staff because county staff have been involved in this process throughout, so we really appreciate that. And the document before you today was formally adopted by the South Frontenac Township Council on May 20th, 2025 this year. I do want to note one thing, and it was based on the comments made by Mr. Stephen Leonard with respect to, I think in his written comments, at least he talked about not being able to speak in April because there was an April date where the official plan was adopted. So the plan was originally adopted on April 8th, and we did receive a package from the township. Unfortunately, we didn't receive the notice of adoption. So that's a really official checkbox moment in the Planning Act that you have to do so. So they had to re-adopt it on May 20th. So the May 20th is the official date, but they did also adopt it on April 8th, and we did get a package of everything, just not that one particular notice that they were looking for. So we do have that now. As part of the approval today, there is a request and a suggestion to include a number of modifications from county staff for the original document. These modifications are all very minor in nature. They are essentially there to ensure consistency with the provincial planning statement and compliance with our county official plan. There's also some minor changes that have been requested by the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks that came in just shortly after the township adopted the plan themselves. So these modifications were presented back to the South Frontenac Township Council for their endorsement, which we received on October 21st. And then, of course, it came to the county's Planning and Economic Development Advisory Committee on October 23rd. I just want to highlight some of the key changes within the document. One of them, as we heard from the delegation this morning, is with respect to prime agricultural areas. So the requirement to identify and designate prime agricultural areas is a requirement from the province. And what they require now through the 2024 provincial planning statement is what is known as an agricultural systems approach. So yes, we look at soil classification, but that is not the only thing that is looked at when you are looking at a prime agricultural area designation. I can say, and I did take some time yesterday to dig back into the agricultural land review that the township did. I spoke with staff in the township's planning department, and I even spoke with our regional representative from, I'm going to call them the Ministry of Agriculture because they change their name very often and I can't keep up. But I did speak with the regional planner there with respect to this issue as well. So the expectation is when a municipality does a review of their agricultural land is that they use criteria and guidelines from the Ministry of Agriculture and consult with them on their methodology. And I can confirm that township staff did do this when they were undertaking their agricultural land review. And just to give you an example about the methodology that was used, soil classification was only one of the 4 things that were being looked at, right? So they were looking for areas primarily composed of class 1 through 3 land soils, as well as some class 4 and 5. They were also looking for a local concentration of agricultural operations which exhibit characteristics of ongoing agriculture, and areas greater than 250 hectares, and then areas relatively unconstrained from incompatible uses. And for agriculture, it's the small residential lots that often constitute that incompatible use. So that was the package of that they were looking for, which resulted in the 4 areas throughout South Frontenac now having this prime agricultural area designation. I understand the concerns expressed by the delegation this morning because under the provincial rules, lot creation within prime agricultural areas is very limited. But that, again, that's a provincial requirement. It's not something discretionary that we or the township could change. And then concerns about soil classification by a landowner. I know, again, the delegation had said that there was no soil testing done. That is not part of the standard practice undertaken by municipalities. I mean, for one, we can't just go onto people's property and sample soil. And 2, it would be extremely cost prohibitive. So unfortunately, the onus is on the landowner to prove that their lands are not prime agricultural. And in speaking with the representative from the Ministry of Agriculture yesterday, even then, it's not necessarily just what their soil classification is. They have to look at their parcel in conjunction with the other lands around them in terms of the designation. I did also ask with respect to the Ministry of Agriculture in terms of whether or not they reviewed the end product of the review that the township did, and they said that that is not their role. So they are there to provide the guidance and the materials, but they do not review the work of the lower tier municipalities because the province is not the approval authority for their documents. It's up to the approval authority, which is in our case, it's the county, to do that review. So that we have reviewed the agricultural land review and the policies as part of this review. I want to speak and particularly highlight the servicing policies that are in South Frontenac's new official plan, particularly for decentralized or communal water and wastewater servicing, because they are the first in the province. So we, as the county, had amended our plan to give direction on how townships should deal with the decentralized and communal servicing for water and wastewater. And we now have our first set of township level policies in the South Frontenac official plan. It outlines where decentralized services are going to be required versus where they're going to be optional. And we feel that these are going to have a real direct and meaningful impact on how South Frontenac will grow and change in the future. In terms of growth management, again, the province requires the majority of growth in every municipality to be directed to settlement areas. In South Frontenac's case, that's their hamlets. Decentralized services in the hamlets will allow for higher densities, as well as new forms and options for housing. So right now, I think throughout the county, the predominant form of development is single detached. When you're developing on decentralized services, it gives you the opportunity to do other forms of housing, such as small apartments, townhouses, semi-detached, which increases choice, flexibility, options, and allows residents to stay in the community, even if they no longer want a large house or a large property. The township has also included policies in the official plan that indicate that growth is going to be studied further through the use of future secondary planning areas. And I've just shown these here on a map. So this future secondary planning areas are essentially most of the existing hamlets, as well as lands within about 1 kilometer or so, excluding prime agriculture and environmental protection. And then you also have sort of the two of the main routes that lead down in towards the city of Kingston. So these are areas where I think first the township's going to look at, well, where is the water? In order to be able to target whether or not any of those settlement areas need to have their boundaries adjusted to account for future growth as part of an actual hamlet. So that is work that will be coming in the future, but the township's official plan does include the policies to guide that work. And I'm certainly happy to take any questions. And I think the last thing that I would like to say is that, you know, as the county, both as council and as staff, when we get these documents, it's the township's vision and the township's plan. So it's not our place to really sort of try and micromanage what the content is. So really, in doing this review, what we were looking for really are three things. Was the proper process followed, right? So when I say process, I mean specifically the Planning Act and the giving notice to residents and passing of, you know, the notice of adoption and everything. The second would be, is it consistent with the provincial planning statement? Because that is a requirement of all municipalities. And does it comply with the county's official plan? And I'm confident today that the document you've been presented with does all three. So again, happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Questions? Warden Saunders.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Bolton. As Mr. Gallivan is often reminding us in the islands, we are way behind in developing our new official plan. With this exercise having gone through, do you have an appreciation for how much time, effort, and schedule it takes to pull that all together?
Through you, Deputy Warden, I mean, I think I would have to defer to township staff because I mean, I can tell you how much time it took us in terms of our review, but we didn't lead this one. But certainly, I think this one poses a little bit more of a challenge because of the pandemic, right? So there was quite a few times where they had to sort of set it aside and then pick it back up again in order to continue moving forward with the consultation. So it makes it difficult. Anytime you take a big project and you put it aside and then you have to pick it up again, you need that extra time to sort of get the momentum back to get it going. So certainly in the case of whenever any of the other townships are ready, such as the islands in terms of doing the new official plan, I think we have a good overall understanding about the number of hours needed to do an official plan, and we would certainly be willing to come to that township council and have that conversation.
Would it be fair to say, I think if there was no interruptions between public meetings and engagement and all the rest, it would be at least a year?
I would say at least 2 and
Okay.
then sometimes 3. I would say you would definitely want to give yourself a minimum a 2-year window, just with all of the engagement, the changes, the revisions. They're large documents. And all the consultation, because when we have to engage with various departments within the municipalities, but also with external agencies and ministries. And unfortunately, we can ask them for comments by a certain date, but that doesn't always happen. So there are a few unknown variables.
Councillor Smith? Oh,
Just to comment on Mr. Leonard, who was here this morning presenting, and he was at committee as well. What are his options to change the prime agriculture? Does he go for a zone change? What process would he need to follow?
Through you, Deputy Warden. So there would be a need to potentially amend the official plan depending on what it is that they wanted to do. So once the official plan is approved and in place, the next job for the township will be to update the zoning to match the current official plan. Mr. Leonard will have the option of appealing council's decision if they don't agree with it, or they can amend the official plan. And that is a conversation they would need to have with township staff and maybe with the county involved as to if they're going to put forward that application, what would be required in order to prove that it should be redesignated back from prime agricultural area. I'm going to say at a minimum, there needs to be the soil testing done as to what else would go into that. It would be a question of whether he was just, there were times where he spoke just about his property, but he was also talking about the greater area around him in his neighborhood as well. So we'd have to look into whether it was just his property he was interested in, or he was talking about the broader area.
But he would go to the municipality first and then come to us? Like
Through-
we couldn't do it without the township doing it?
Through you, Deputy Warden, I mean, you do have the capability legally to make any modifications to South Frontenac's plan that you want. But it's standard practice not to take site-specific requests at this stage. The proper process is to go to the township first and to work with township staff on the amendment. And they, of course, because they know ultimately it would be this council approving it, they would involve us, to come to meetings and whatnot. But really, the onus should be on the applicant going to the township to make that individual request.
Councillor Greenwood Spears.
Thank you, and it was a very comprehensive official plan that very, very well done. I was impressed with it. And I've certainly taken notes on it. Just for clarity in that, are we at this point in the council also talking about the report, Planning and Economic Advisory Committee report to council? And if we are in that, I just want to make one comment. Or is that going to be the next order of business?
I think that's planning and economic is two-way.
Okay, just wanted to check. Thank you, since Sonia was here.
Any other comments or Councillor Leonard?
Well, thank you, Sonia. I know it's been a struggle. It's definitely been a struggle for us, but you're going back to, you say soil samples, but all of this is on the landowner. It's not on township cost, right?
Through you, Deputy Warden, that would be correct. They would have to initiate the amendment and the onus would be on them to provide the proof as to why it should be changed.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Fowler.
Yeah, that was my point too. I was gonna.
I have a couple comments and they're not to be negative, so I don't want anybody to take it negatively. I heard last night that South Frontenac is supposed to be 80% of the growth in the county. And my opinion, just my own humble opinion, is I don't think this official plan will provide that. I know there's communal in there, I know there's secondary suites, but there was no more growth of individual lots, no more growth of some other things. Subdivisions and all them things are very costly. It's nice to say somebody's gonna put in a communal system and put 50 houses on it, but you know how many million that's gonna take. So I know that we're, as a municipality, planning on putting in an amendment when it's approved. However, that's just my own opinion, and that's not a criticism of the plan. I'm just saying, I don't think that we're gonna see the growth that we think this plan will provide. That's just my own opinion. You can make a comment if you want, but it doesn't matter.
No, I appreciate the comment, Deputy Warden, and I love a challenge, so
Good,
look forward to the future.
good.
Thank you.
Pardon?
Oh, yeah. The other thing that I don't need to take this out then, if we're voting on everything in the committee of the whole is fine. I want to make one point. Mr. Leonard, or the person who was here for delegation, said that he did not want me or Councillor Leonard to vote. As anybody that has a memory with Johnson's Point or the Hardington subdivision, Hardington subdivision council voted one way and me and the representative at the county at the time voted another. I got in a lot of trouble for that. However, the legal opinion from Cunningham Swan is I am not bound by my counsel when I come here. So that's what I did, but we're still here. Anyway, So I just want to make that point, even though that's what he's saying, that's not true. So on that note, all in favor of, oh, no, sorry. Okay, go ahead.
So for the report of the Planning and Economic Development Advisory Committee, it's moved by Councillor Lichty, seconded by Councillor Greenwood Spears, that the report received from the Planning and Economic Development Advisory Committee be received and adopted. And there are two items on that report. The first is the Township of South Frontenac official plan, and the second one is the KMP Trail 2025 Trail User Survey results.
Are we allowed to vote on the official plan and then have the discussion?
You can have those separated if you wish.
Let's just separate them and get the one out of the road and then we'll do the county one. Is that okay? All those in favor of the new official plan? Carried. Unanimously. And then we will have seeing the motions on the floor. If there are discussions about the advisory committee on the KMP Trail, then we'll have that now. Councillor Greenwood Spears.
Okay, I just wanted to make the point that it's one thing to say that we have trail user survey results, but I don't think it's been attached in that. And I think that all the councillors, because the KMP Trail is such a significant amount, and that, yeah, if you hit the link, you can print it out and that. The comments were very informative on that survey. And at the very least, if you look through the comments, I think it will help to guide us further and that in ongoing development of the KMP Trail. And that's all I want to highlight is make sure that you read the comments, because it's one thing for us to ask a question and the limits of how many people respond, but the comments are often very well thought out. Thank you.
Thank you. And it does say that the results of the trail survey be considered as part of. So it's another tool that we will look at when those things happen. Are there any other comments? Councillor Fowler.
Just regarding the survey, I believe the survey is a good thing for the trail. It sets the tone, how it is viewed by the public in general.
Okay, all in favor of accepting? Carried. Return to council.
Moved by Councillor Leonard, seconded by Councillor Smith, that council revert from committee of the whole council to council.
All in favor? Carried.
As has been mentioned before, this seat is quite warm. There we go. So continuing with the agenda, the adoption of the report of the Committee of the Whole of Council.
Moved by Councillor Gowdy, seconded by Councillor Greenwood Spears, that the report of the Committee of the Whole Council be adopted and that the necessary actions or bylaws be enacted.
Comments, questions? All those in favor? Passed. There have been no motions given. Is anyone preparing to give a notice of motion today? Seeing none, moving on. The next item is communication. All these items are intended for your information, council. All duly noted. And then we go to the next item, which is other business.
So that is we just need a volunteer to sit on the library board, given that Warden Saunders has resigned from that. So we just are looking for a volunteer.
So
Didn't want me to nominate somebody?
we might have to do that. Let's see if anyone wants to volunteer
I
first.
nominate Nikki Gowdy because she wants it.
Do we know it?
So
So,
being facetious? You really want it?
so to keep it official, you accept that nomination?
Yes.
Thank you.
So we do have a resolution moved by Councillor Vanderwall, seconded by Councillor Leonard, that Councillor Nikki Gowdy be appointed to the Kingston Frontenac Public Library Board, whose appointment will end November 14th, 2026, And further that bylaw 2023-001 being a bylaw to appoint members of council and members of the community to external boards and committees for the term of council as amended be further amended to reflect this appointment.
Any comments?
Should we ask for other nominations in case Fran wanted?
I'm not going to accept that comment. Okay, but did you have a comment? Okay. All right. So seeing no other comments, all those in favor? Passed. Thank you. We're now on to bylaws, general bylaws and confirmatory bylaw.
Moved by Councillor Fowler, seconded by Councillor Vanderwall, resolved that leave be given to the mover to introduce bylaws A through F that have been circulated to all members of County Council, and that bylaws A through F have been read at first and second time.
Comments, questions? All those in favor? Passed.
Moved by Councillor Fowler, seconded by Councillor Vanderwall, resolved that bylaws A through F be read a third time, signed, sealed, and finally passed.
Comments, questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Passed. With all due respect to Madam Clerk, there is an additional item that I want to put on the agenda. I believe Nikki Gowdy has a presentation to make.
Thank you, Warden. Deputy Eric, Jeanette, every year you feel very festive and you're always looking to get the whole council becoming festive, and you lack the background materials to make that happen. So I stumbled upon a Christmas songbook for you. And I wanted to present it to you today, so you had a month to get ready for our festivities in December. So this is for you.
And it's large type.
Not that that's saying anything, but.
So that being said, you all need to practice your singing voices because I will make you do it next council meeting.
Does that need a motion? So, ladies and gentlemen, we do need to have a motion to adjourn.
Moved by Councillor Leonard, seconded by Councillor Gowdy, that the meeting hereby adjourn at 11:32 a.m.
All those, any comments? All those in favor? Thank you. And thank you for your patience with the new warden, the new deputy warden, in managing through a fairly extensive agenda. Thank you.